Hi guys, welcome back to Daniel Rosehill Plus here on YouTube. My name is Daniel Rosehill and this is my second YouTube channel. A little bit more wide-ranging in topic than my main YouTube channel, which I'm trying to really keep focused on stuff related to living in Israel. So this one's a bit kind of more open, and today this is just going to be a sort of a deep dive into the motion being discussed in Ireland to expel the Israeli ambassador in Dublin. Now, this is being kind of presented in the Irish news, or has been presented as just an attempt to expel the ambassador, but it's actually, the motion goes quite a bit forward, and I thought that rather than look at sort of news cuttings about this, it would be much better to just go to the source. And the source here is this is being voted on in 9 o'clock Irish time, so in about 2 hours. And this motion is basically kind of doomed to failure because of the fact that since just a few hours ago, the Green Party here has said, their leader Eamon Ryan has said they're opposing it. So the numbers just aren't going to come together for them. Social Democrats, Labour, Social Democrats and Sinn Féin and People Before Profit Solidarity will be voting in favour. But that still doesn't give them enough numbers, as the Green Party, which has 11 seats in Parliament, has said that they're going to vote against this. They said it would be a retrograde step. But let's just come back to the bill, and I want to just kind of go over exactly what's being proposed. So this is the motion, and it's important to highlight that a motion this would be non-binding. It's not. This isn't the proposal of a bill in Parliament, but it's a motion being proposed by this lady, Deputy Holly Cairns, who is the leader of the Social Democrats, and she is quite a young politician from West Cork, so not too far from where I used to live in Cork City. So this is Holly's motion. So I move that Dáil Éireann expresses horror at the death and devastation being wrought by the Israeli government in Gaza. It's a long litany of outrage, or sort of demands that they express outrage. Expresses its outrage at the scale of the death toll in Gaza. Expresses its abhorrence at the deliberate. I'm going to give my commentary on this as well, because look, I'm doing this video in Israel, and I would consider myself quite pro-Israel. So I think this is an unfounded claim. The deliberate targeting by Israel of hospitals, schools, UNRWA installations, bakeries, residential buildings and civilian infrastructure in Gaza. Deplores the inhumanity of cutting off access to food. Abhors that more than 1.5 million people in Gaza have been displaced. That's talking about those who Israel has been told to move to the south of the strip, because the north is where they're fighting Hamas currently. Expresses its deep revulsion at the continuing collective punishment being meted out to civilians in Gaza. Finally, we get a condemnation of October 7th, kind of pretty condemns the barbaric attack by Hamas on Israel on 7th of October, in which 1,400 people were killed and at least 243 people were kidnapped. And agrees that the taking of hostages is a war crime and demands the release of all hostages by Hamas. And again, I'm not going to read it word by word. You get the gist here. Expresses alarm. Then it goes on about attacks by Israeli settlers in the West Bank against Palestinians. How many Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank? How many Palestinians have been displaced? So it's extremely anti-Israel, and there's really no balance here. I mean, there is that condemnation up there of the Hamas October 7th attack, but otherwise it's just kind of a long litany of grievances against Israel, just kind of all over the place, from Gaza and in the West Bank. So agrees that Israel has committed multiple breaches of international law in its assault on Gaza, not mentioning that Hamas has also committed breaches of international law by going on a barbaric massacre and keeping citizens hostage without access to the Red Cross, basically. So that's just kind of ignored. Going on about European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who said that the EU stands with Israel, and this has been something that Richard Boyd Barrett of People Before Profit just freaked out about, so she's freaking out about it too. So here we go. Call on the government. So this is the meat. So this is kind of like how this motion is it's phrased kind of just stating stuff, and then this is a call to action as such. So it wants the Irish government to intensify its advocacy for an immediate ceasefire and the release of hostages, provide strong leadership at the EU level to advocate for economic sanctions on Israel, including, and there's two here, one, the suspension of the EU-Israel Association Agreement on the basis of a serious breach of the essential elements human rights clause. So I talked about this in a separate video. This is kind of the framework agreement governing relations between Israel and the EU. And as I said in that video, Ireland can't kick Israel out of the EU, and it can't do any of these actions unilaterally. So I was just saying that kind of if this motion were to pass, which it won't, then Ireland should do these things at the EU level, even though probably wouldn't be successful there. But this one, so that's particularly nasty, I would say, in terms of basically trying to upend Israel's relationship with the EU as a multilateral body on the basis of a human rights clause in that agreement. And this one here as well, suspension of the EU-Israel Horizon Europe Association Agreement and Israel's access to the 95 billion Horizon Europe Fund for Research and Innovation. So this is a R&D fund that Israel's had access to for a few years, and Israel's participated in this Horizon Europe Association. And it's basically, creating collaborations between Israeli researchers and EU-based researchers on creating innovation across all categories. So it's just so spiteful. The innovations created through this program might benefit people around the world, including in Ireland. But she demands that Israel should be kicked out of the EU, essentially, and have their access to this agreement suspended. Also make a referral to the International Criminal Court. And this is really important. This one is not being reported in the media. Enact the Control of Economic Activity Occupied Territories Bill 2018. And this is the infamous bill, the Control of Economic Activity Occupied Territories Bill, that Ireland sought to introduce and still just kind of languishing there. And I brought it up on my screen just to kind of show how extreme this legislation is. This is it. It's called the Control of Economic Activity Occupied Territories Bill 2018. And it's stuck in Parliament because the US made sounds that if Ireland enacted this bill, they wouldn't be able to have their multinational companies there because Ireland would be in breach of US law, preventing a boycott. So this one is saying that basically the kind of short summary of this bill is that if an Irish person does business, I'll actually just get to it. It shall be an offence for a person to import or attempt to import settlement goods. So that could mean a bottle of wine that was produced in what the Irish call settlements in Judea and Samaria. And it'll also be an offence for a person to assist another person. So, perhaps someone you brought home a bottle of wine for someone on a trip to Israel that happened to be produced in over the Green Line, and that would be an offence as well. And you also can't sell settlement goods. It should be an offence for a person to sell or attempt to sell them. And you can't assist someone, and it should be an offence for a person to provide or attempt to provide a settlement service. So basically covering kind of all things your ordinary citizen might want to do. But look at this. This is insane, right? The penalties. A person who is guilty of an offence under the foregoing sections is liable on summary conviction to a Class A fine or to imprisonment of a term not exceeding 12 months. So they could lock you up for buying that bottle of wine from the Israeli winemaker in Judea and Samaria. And look at the fine. On conviction on indictment, to a fine not exceeding €250,000, €250,000, or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or both. So basically, on summary, if it's a summary, these are just different types of convictions. It would be 12 months, and if it was conviction on an indictment, you'd be potentially thrown in jail for 5 years. So the penalties are just massive and disproportionate. So this is basically what's being called for. And here we finally have the withdraw the diplomatic status of the Israeli ambassador Given the failure of the Israeli state to cease the deliberate targeting of civilians, journalists, EU, UN staff, and healthcare workers, I don't think Israel is deliberately targeting any of those groups of people. Pursue all possible avenues of the EU and the UN to build an international alliance for peace. So basically, this motion is kind of multifaceted. It's not just saying we want to expel the Israeli ambassador. It is saying that. Well, it's actually saying we'll withdraw her diplomatic credentials, but it's got a lot more in it as well. It's saying, hey, you should get that crazy law passed, and we'll give out to you about all these things. So it's quite a far-reaching motion. Anyway, it's probably not going to make it. The motion will not be carried, but I think it's important to remember what was attempted, at least, in this motion brought by Deputy Holly Cairns of the Social Democrats. Thanks for watching today's video. More videos from me will be coming up on this YouTube channel soon.